എൻ്റെ ലിറ്ററേച്ചർ റിവ്യൂവിലെ സ്റ്റെപ്സൊക്കെ ആരോടാ ചോദിക്കേണ്ടത്? അളകനന്ദനോട് ചോദിക്കാം തന്നെ. വാട്ട് ആർ ദ സ്റ്റെപ്സ് ഇൻവോൾവ് ഇൻ ലിറ്ററേച്ചർ? വാട്ട് ഈസ് ദ പർപ്പസ് ഓഫ് ലിറ്ററേച്ചർ റിവ്യൂ പറഞ്ഞു എന്താണ്? എന്നാ തൊട്ടടുത്തിരിക്കുന്ന ദേവയാനിയോട് ചോദിക്കട്ടെ. ഞാനും ആബ്സെൻ്റ് ആയിരുന്നു. ഫ്രൈഡേ സൺഡേ പറഞ്ഞിരുന്നത്. എന്നാൽ പിന്നെ വേറെ ആരോടാ ചോദിക്കേണ്ടത്? ശ്രീലക്ഷ്മി പറഞ്ഞേ, വാട്ട് ഈസ് ദ പർപ്പസ് ഓഫ് ലിറ്ററേച്ചർ റിവ്യൂ? അവിടെ നമുക്ക് വേണം തുടങ്ങാനായിട്ട്. ഓക്കെ. പിന്നെ അത് മാത്രമേ ഉള്ളൂ. അമൃതദീദിക്ക് അറിയാൻ പാടില്ലേ? ബാക്കി അമൃതദീദി എന്നല്ലേ പേര്? ഓക്കെ. ഇത്രയും നമ്മൾ കഴിഞ്ഞ ക്ലാസ്സിൽ എടുത്തിരുന്നതാണ്. ഓക്കെ, ഇതെല്ലാം ഓർമ്മയുണ്ടാവും. ഇനി നമുക്ക് ഒരു ചെറിയ ടോപ്പിക്കാണ് ഇൻഷുർ നോവൽറ്റി ഇൻ യുവർ വർക്ക്. ഇനി ലിറ്ററേച്ചർ റിവ്യൂ കഴിഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ അനദർ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ഏരിയ ഈസ് ഐഡൻറ്റിഫൈങ് ഗ്യാപ്പ് ഏരിയാസ് ഫ്രം ലിറ്ററേച്ചർ റിവ്യൂ. നമ്മൾ in the last class I was telling you about a case of butterflies. Okay, so if there are some 300 butterflies species in Kerala, and when we were conducting literature review, we could only found 100 species of butterflies in Kottayam district. That means there is a possible gap, a gap of around 200 species of butterflies are missing in Kottayam district. So there should be either some explanation, or there should be some reason, or the butterfly diversity of Kottayam district may be undercounted. So we have a possibility there. That possibility is what we commonly known by the gap in their research. So we can do research only in those areas where there is a possibility of increasing our knowledge. Because normally society or community, scientific community is not encouraging repetition of work. If one person is doing some work, another person is again repeating the same work, third person is also repeating the same work, there won't be any progress in science. So generally scientific community is not encouraging repetition of work. The repetition of work is only possible when there is some serious mistakes in the work conducted by one person. So normally in every research we are beginning the research by going through the previous literature in detail. So after going through the previous literature or previous publication, we will be able to identify that there is a possibility of finding of something new in this area. So in the case of Kottayam district, we are feeling that there are 300 species of butterflies in Kerala. So naturally there should be a possibility of at least about 200 species of butterflies in Kottayam district also. So here there is a possibility, and that possibility is what we are going to utilize. So that is what we mean by identifying gap in the literature review. So what is a gap? A research gap or literature gap refers to unexplored or underexplored. So there are two terms. One is unexplored. For example, the case of Kottayam district is underexplored. There is only 100 species of butterfly. Then the remaining 200 species are not known. That means the diversity of butterfly species in Kottayam district is underexplored or understudied. Then there can be another possibility. There may be some regions in Kottayam district where researchers have never gone there for any kind of butterfly survey. So that area remains unexplored. So there can be two possibility. One, it is unexplored or means not studied. Second is underexplored. That is studied but not in a very adequate manner. That is underexplored. So unexplored and underexplored areas that have a scope for further research. Further research means new research. So only in those areas of science where there is limited work or no work, because in every PhD work they are beginning their thesis like in this area there are only very few studies has been conducted. That means there is a scope for finding out something new in this area. So it is with this sentence every PhD thesis is normally started. So that is how That is the importance of research gap. So what is a research gap? You have to add. So research is possible only in those areas of science where there is a possibility of finding something new, or where there is a research gap or literature gap. This could be a population or sample, research method, data collection or analysis, or other kind of research. For this research gap can be in different fields. Sometimes in new methodology. For example, earlier butterfly the collectors were using normally hand collection, and sometimes there can be a possibility of collecting the butterfly using net. Nowadays, people are not collecting with the hand or with the net. We can use cameras also. So we can by utilizing cameras, we can take good photographs, especially if the zoom cameras are there. It is very easy to take good photographs, very natural photographs, so without touching the butterfly. So that is a new method. So new methods are also gaps in the literature. Sometimes with the way we have analyzed the data. The earlier scientists have analyzed the data mainly by using pen and paper. Nowadays we are not utilizing that. We are mainly utilizing computer. We prepare an Excel sheet, and in that Excel sheet we put the data of each butterfly species we have seen. After some time we'll be able to prepare in a graphical manner or in a pie chart with the help of a pie chart. We know how many species of butterflies are present here. So that is how we are presenting the data. So in any area this gap in literature can be possible. So how do you identify the gap? So these are the conducting exhaustive. Exhaustive means very detailed, very thorough literature review is the first step. That is, if there are 100 publications in that area, we have to collect all those 100 publications. You got only 90 publications, or you got only 95 publications, or you got only 99 publications. One publication is missing. Sometimes in that one paper, most of the data that you are searching for may be present. And if you don't have all the literature, 100% of the literature is necessary. In any literature, in any research method or research study, first step is collecting all the literature in that area. All the literature in that area. Only after collecting all the literature in that area, we will be able to do something new in that area. So that is the first step. So as you search for journal articles, you will need to read critically across the breadth of literature to identify this gap. Second thing is that you have 100 paper. And second most important is reading this 100 paper very carefully. So when you go for a PhD or a MPhil or any other type of research, because from next year onwards you have 4-year courses. First year it is if you complete first year you will get certificate in zoology. If you complete 2 years you will get diploma in zoology. You get the complete 3 years you will get degree in zoology. You complete 4 years, from the next year they will get honors in degree in zoology. So that's the 4-year course. And the 4th year is completely project work, research work. So there are only 3-year theory study, and the 4th year will be complete project work, research work. So what is the first step you will be doing? You will be collecting this literature. Then second is that you will be carefully reading the paper. If there are 50 publications or 100 publications, the first and the most critical step is carefully reading this literature. So when we are reading this 100 papers very carefully, without anybody's help, we will be able to identify that there are so many gaps here. So many of the important information are not still found out. Many areas are still understudied or unexplored. So these are the areas where I could contribute something new. So that is the second method. The first is we are collecting the literature, and second and the most important step is reading the literature. Not simply reading the literature, very carefully, very thoroughly reading the literature. So when we are reading the literature in a very careful, very precise manner, we will be able to find out something new. Your goal should be to find a space of opening for contributing a new research. So after reading this 100 publication, you could come across several gaps. Maybe you could find some 50 gaps. Out of that 50 possible areas, you may still narrow down. These are the 50 areas where I could contribute something new. But you may not be going to contribute your contribution in all these 50 missing gaps. It may not be possible. From that 50 missing gaps, you can only take 1 or 2 gaps for your study. So how you will be taking that one, identifying that 1 or 2 gaps? You will read these gaps again and again. Then you will analyze whether I can contribute anything new here. What are the requirements that are needed? What are the facilities that are needed? What is the amount of money that I have to spend? So based on your amount, based on your financial capacity, based on your research facilities which are available, finally you may be selecting 2 or 3 topics. Then what you will be doing, you may be going with that data with some expert in that field. So you will be talking to that expert. Normally a guide or a research guide or a professor or a scientist or somebody will be there. And what they will be, most of the day they will have practical experience. Based on that practical experience, they will also share their knowledge with you. So after discussing with them, you will be able to redefine your problem. So this is the way you should carry out your work. Based on his practical experience, he will be telling that you have to do this work in this method, or you have to analyze this work in this method. So after that, you will be able to identify from that 3 or 4 gaps, 1 gap you will be selecting. And in that 1 gap, you have chosen that you will make the objective of your research study. And that is how you are coming, narrowing down and finally selecting 1 important gap. In selecting that, most of the time, the most important point is that facilities available, then the technical support available, then academics guidance available. So only without facilities, without technical support, without any kind of mentor, you may not proceed much in research. So these are the areas where most of the students get stuck. So this is how we are narrowing down, and finally we are focusing on it. The first is gathering broad knowledge of the research articles on your topic. We have already discussed. You may want to look for research that approaches the topic from a variety of methods. Qualitative method, quantitative method, and a mixed method. Then challenges you may face while identifying the literature gap. So effort of dealing with enormous amount of information. This is one important problem. You have enormous amount of data. You might get overwhelmed. Overwhelmed means over confused with the number of research gaps you stumble upon and feel confused which one you should focus. So when we are reading these 100 papers, you come across 50 research gaps. How I will identify the best gap that is good for me? As I have already discussed, the most of the day what students are doing, students will be selecting 3 or 4 gaps. With that gap, they will talk to some expert, and based on the advice of the expert, they finally select 1 gap. This is what most of the day PhD scholars and other students, our master students are doing that. So this is the practical way of that. Otherwise, without the support of a professor or a mentor, it is very difficult to properly go through that. If you are going along without the support of any senior person in that, the problem is that you may be committing some mistakes, and that mistakes may be costing you too much amount of money, too much amount of your time. Not only your money and your time, it is actually the time and money of the society or the community. You are just a part of the society. By doing one research, personally you are not going to benefit much from that. Maybe you will get a degree. But above that, society is getting something. Because when my students are doing that, they get at the individual level, they will get a PhD degree. But more than that, it is a society who is benefiting. That is why government is giving them scholarship. So because society gets something in back. So if you are unable to provide anything back to the society, then your time and your money that you are spending on this is useless. So difficulty of searching in an organized manner. Some researchers may find it difficult to organize information they have gathered. One can easily lose ideas if they are not noted properly. For example, you are reading 100 papers. When we are reading one of the papers, you come across some important gaps. So first thing and the most important thing that you should do is that you should write that gap in your notebook. And if you are not writing down that gap, what will happen? After reading 4 or 5, 5th paper or 6th paper, you may easily forget the first gap you have identified. Then after completing 100 papers, instead of 50 gaps, you may be only finding 4 or 5 gaps. So this is another problem. So if you are not noting down, you will be coming across a problem. So organizing the knowledge, when writing down the knowledge in a very systematic way. So this is another skill that you have to develop. Because when you are reading something, you have to note down. Nowadays it is because most of the papers are PDF. Just by clicking the button on the PDF, you can yellow shape that portion. So it is very easy in most of the modern papers because almost all of them give it. Earlier what we do, we use a marker pen and you are highlighting that area. So that is how we used to highlight important gap areas in that. Then the third is hesitation in questioning established norms. Some researchers are not confident enough to challenge existing knowledge in their field and may hesitate to question what others have claimed in their work. For example, you know the case of Aristotle. Before Aristotle, what was the knowledge about the earth is flat? So at that time, now the religious beliefs are very strong. It is very difficult to challenge the established norm propagated by a religion. So Aristotle was also had that problem, but he still questioned. So that ability to question what is the current knowledge is an important part of important quality needed by any researcher. If you are unable to question the established knowledge, you may not contribute something new. Because all scientists, if you take the case of Darwin, you take the case of Newton, you take the case of Albert Einstein, all important scientists have this mental ability. They have a strong confidence in their belief and their finding, and they are ready to challenge the society in their own way. So that is an important confidence any researcher should have. Sometimes several scientists have been killed because of challenging the established norms of it. Nowadays, doing research is more easy. Because nowadays science is more established. If you have faith in what you are doing, nobody is going to kill you over that. So that was not the case around 200 or 300 years back. So now the society has progressed a lot. So hesitation in questioning established norms is an important part of the research. Where can you locate a research gap? As you begin to gather literature, you will want to critically read for what has not been learned from the research. Use discussion and future research section of the article to understand what the researchers have found and where they point out the literature or addition. For example, you are going to read 100 pages. In the 100 pages, normally if you take a research paper, there are different areas. First, the title will be there. Then there is a paragraph on introduction. Then there is a paragraph on methodology. Then after that, the result section will come. And the final section is discussion and conclusion. Most of the time, this discussion is the most important part where you can look for a research gap. Because in the discussion, majority of the scientists or researchers will be expressing their personal viewpoint about that research problem. So there may not be any benefit in simply reading the introduction and result. But most of the time, if you want to find out a new research gap, you have to go into the discussion area or conclusion area. So there will be that is the area where research gaps will be there. Continue to ask critical questions about your topic. Who, what, when, where, how. These are important areas. Who, what, these are because any research is beginning in that. What about this? Who or who has contributed? So who, when, where, how. This is how we are actually finding out the research gap. Also consider what has not been explored in the study and what may be a possible gap or opening. So research gap is actually an opening for further research. So this is how we are finding out research gap. Once you have outlined the research gaps in the literature, point out this and flows, making sure that you identify the pertinent. Pertinent means most important, most relevant issues in your future study. Identify the gaps in literature so that you understand the topic, suggesting so that your potential for further study and independent research. Because if you are nowadays these students are usually going to other countries for studying abroad. There are two types of master degree. One is coursework master. Coursework master is the type of MSc that we are doing. It will be a theory, 1 year theory, and second, third semester will be also theory, fourth semester there will be a project. That is how the normal PG is there. In foreign university, they have another type of PG called research master. Research master. For research master, they will not teach you. It is almost like a PhD. There may be one or few guidance classes, but most of the day you are working along just like PhD student. And if you want to apply for research masters, one advantage is that cost is little less, but majority of Indian students won't go for that because they are not confident. Because it is like doing a PhD immediately after your degree. So the problem is that if you want to apply for a research masters, they will ask you for a project proposal. In what area? For example, you are going to apply for a research masters in zoology, and there are several areas in zoology. First, you have to identify an area. From that area, you have to identify a problem. Then you should submit that problem as a proposal to the university where you are going to study, and the university should accept your. Then only you can go for that research master. So advantage of research master is that it is most of the time less expensive than a course for the master. Then another advantage is that if you are in Australia, normally they will give you 2 years stay back. But those who are doing research masters will get 3 years stay back. So there are some advantages. But at the same time, doing a research master is not as easy as a course of master. And the fees are also less. So advantage, but majority of Indian students are not ready because the lack of confidence. Because here you are mostly going to be a theoretical method. The one important point that you are going to immediately find out when you go abroad is that there is more practical focus. Only few things you are studying in theory. Most of the day, even the examination is practical focus. So that is how the foreign universities are. So this is an area of finding the right choice of literature. Finding the right choice of literature is very important for finding the gap. So this is how the literature gap or research gaps are important in your study. So thank you.